explore the world through your fantastic description. Now, question 2. Now, the game introduces a new storyline and characters within the Zelda universe. How did the narrative and character development compare to the previous installments? Now, did it add depth and intrigue to the overall lore?
It's interesting because this is where I'm divided, because I'm excited that a familiar face has returned. I don't know whether I want to say it because it's spoilers, though it is kind of an open secret. It was in the trailers.
I suppose.
Can I just
go for it? Yeah.
Ganondorf is back.
Oh my God!
Right from the beginning. So in the first 5 minutes of the game, the trailers showed Link and Zelda going down into the dungeons, going down into caves with strange carvings. So right from the first trailer, the very beginning, years ago, they established that this is going to be a game where you have to go digging down not into caves, not just downwardly physical, but into the past of Hyrule. And we reveal that Ganondorf is here. Ganondorf is present. So they brought back the villain, the classic villain. We've got our Trinity, we have our Triforce, we have Link, Zelda, and Ganondorf. And I'm excited because I'm really, really excited to see how they interpret him this time. But this is a sequel. This is a direct sequel. So people who haven't played Breath of the Wild, hearing, fans foam at the mouth and rave about how great Tears of the Kingdom is, I would really, please, an open letter to every one of you who's interested, play Breath of the Wild first. Because this is a direct continuation of a story. The characters you meet in this game, in Tears, are the people you had your great quest with in Breath of the Wild. They're just a few years down the line. One character, no names, but one character, he was a pivotal player in the section in the game, the first one. Now he's back. He's the elder of his tribe, and he's got a kid. His kid's playing a larger role now, but I knew this guy, and I've watched him now, he's grown up. So I'm excited to see how this world has grown. It's a bit of a time skip and a new upheaval, and I'm excited to see this world. But is that playing into the Stockholm syndrome of previous Zelda games? Are they now adding back the Katamari of tropes that the first one was lauded for removing? Is the introduction of old elements a boon? Or is it the first steps down a familiar and sadly well-worn path? I don't know. I think the next game after this in a few years, I think that will be the deal maker. Whether they're able to sustain new ideas, new methods, new creativity, or they begin to fall into familiar patterns. If they do, I'll still play them and I'll still enjoy them. I like the older games. I admit it. I'm a narrative gamer. I play games for the story and for the high score a little bit. But it is a little bit worrisome to see a beloved friend really shake themselves out of their funk and try something new and go to such heights and then fall back into bad habits.
Right. This is interesting. Where you put this. Okay, so for instance, it sounds like what you're describing is a bit like what you had when Daniel Craig came into the Bond series. You had Casino Royale. I'm not sure if that was the very first Bond book. Maybe it was. But
it was.
Yeah, and it was like
Casino Royale was the first.
Right, and what's interesting here is you've got things in it that people who know the original stuff would recognize. So to other people, it just seems like they're going for a Bond who actually looks like he can really take on these secret agent missions, and you have to be an actual tough guy. He's not just press a button on a gadget and things blow up, but he has to actually be a guy who can do a
Yeah.
bit of parkour and jumping over buildings and take a good old sledgehammer to the old gonads, well, or something of the sort. So which is quite crazy. But that being said, that is all stuff that the people who know the original stuff would follow. Then, just like Bond, this you have a game that comes after, which is a direct sequel. And what I love, even though everybody's giving Quantum of Solace a lot of hell, personally, I loved it, but one thing I liked about it is that it was a direct sequel. I understand they were saying that there was a Bond that was done before that was quite almost a sequel. The way it was
Yeah, there have been moments, there have been earlier Bond films that reference themselves, but they always tried to keep it tongue in cheek. The whole point was that, like serialization, as was the du jour of the time, each film had to be its own story, a self-contained story. Now they could reference, I mean, they had the same actors, they had the same queue for decades, for God's sake. Of course, there was some sense of continuation, but with Casino Royale, they basically went, right, this is like state level 1. We've gone back to the beginning, and now this is an actual ongoing story, because modern audiences prefer this sequelization. We like the serialization of characters. Gone are the days of the family friendly monster of the week, random episodes.
Yes, exactly that. But Batman episode, well, not Batman. I'm almost crossing things. I'm thinking Simpsons versus Japanese anime.
It's Simpsons versus
I mean, like
Archer. Dragon Ball.
Yeah.
But just like modern television, it's Game of Thrones versus the Happy Days.
Yeah, another one. King of the Hill. I think the original King of the Hill, before he got retconned, then Fox decided to just overhaul the whole process and kind of Mike Judge's original vision. It was supposed to be like anime. It actually had characters that looked realistic. The next episode, Bobby was growing up, and then you had The Simpsons, which was completely random. Any episode it could be Christmas twice, and then you have King of the Hill. It was actually canon. It actually followed like that.
It's X-Files versus Stranger Things.
Yeah, there you go. A good example. So there you have it.
But it changed, and so Casino Royale went down that route and started doing serializations and direct continuations, and so did many other forms and books and games. Zelda went down this, and even when each game can be its own thing, the fans have created the Zelda timeline and put these games into a consistent timeline to say, hey, this is where it fits, and these events lead onto one another. And after they did that, Nintendo lent into it. They started doing games that directly sequeled each other. The handheld games, directly followed Wind Waker. You had Wind Waker, and then boom, boom. The next two were the same world, had the same enemies, had the same style. They were sequels, which
I wonder.
Not good games, but the freedom to make their own. The ambiguity of whether this is all one shared history, that was nice. But now we're getting actual direct sequels, and it could be great. But I've seen great games fail. I've seen great series fail because they got rid of all the lore, all the bogged down crap that most fans don't know about, only the most diehard aware of, and go to great strengths. And then when they try and put that stuff back in,
that's the thing. It's a bit of a gamble right now, because now whatever they established with Ganon, going to Ganondorf, going in, I suppose if they continue on with the direct sequelization, I guess with games you have freedom to go in Fantasyland a bit more, but you have to bear in mind how you presented it in the previous game and consider what you're going to do next is a continuation, or are we going to say, you know what, hell, we have a new Zelda now. He's a baby.
Yeah, that's true. Games have a unique position because they're an interactive medium, but they are a fanciful one. They are escapism at their heart. So as long as the story is consistent within the realm of its own reality, as long as it's inwardly consistent, then that's fine. And I think in the last 10, 20 years, we've seen the rise of true fandoms. We've had fans before, people who beloved shows, Star Trek, Star Wars, for examples. This media created massive, passionate fandoms. But now with the digital age, being able to access, people who also share your fandom, the intensity, the overwhelming presence, and the sadly to say, the declining global position, the difficulties that modern people are facing, it leans towards escapism. People are looking for entertainment, and they become aggressively passionate about it. As well as, people have turned away from religion, but that doesn't mean that people aren't passionate about things.
Yeah,
So
you get it.
canon, I think that canon within a law has become the new dogma, has become the new sacrosanct.
Oh my
You
gosh,
you cannot challenge the canon within its own world. If this is the way the world works, you can't challenge that. That's dogma now.
you
And
know what
people,
you're saying is deep. That is, yeah. Sorry, you were saying there was a cut into. That sounds very profound. I didn't think about that. I'm gonna. Okay, so that was very. What struck me about what you said is that canon being and law being something that is, like you said, held sacrosanct. Especially in, like you said, people turning away from religion. People traditionally, I've been looking into a lot of traditionalism and how it even shows up in our entertainment and our literature. And with society changing, there's certain things that you can't erase. It's a bit like canceling and going back and cutting things out of history. Like I think even Spielberg was talking about. That's silly, in my opinion, because you have to at least reflect what something comes from to be able to progress. So law, even if you're not dealing with actual, if when people, what's happened is people have a bit like science versus religion. Sorry to just break off into this tangent. I'll literally be 2 minutes. I've been posing this question to students recently, and I said people have been turning against religion, and not turning against religion, but yes, I didn't phrase it that way, but leaving, yeah, right, and looking to science in some regards, and I believe the media have been pushing this quite a bit, where you hear even in pop culture, we would say things like word, or when they like to say like amen to something, like what you're saying is absolutely true, but then they decide to switch and say that's fact, or that's a fact, and they're pushing all the way to when it comes to fact checks in the media and all that stuff, fact, as in like we do with logic and reason and so on. But I was saying to one of my students recently, it's interesting. The like logos, pathos, and ethos. Sorry, the three, I believe, the three modes of persuasion that were put out there for us to judge something as true by. We cannot be isolated. I think they all must play a role, like the Triforce, if you will. So I'd say to one of my students, people may confuse facts and the truth quite a bit.
Oh, yes.
And I say
they're not the same.
Exactly. So I was saying I put it to them and I said, facts are tangible proofs of a claim, whereas truths involve tangible and intangible proofs of a claim. For instance, I could say a husband could say he loves his wife, but is that true? Now, it could be a fact that he said that, but is that true? And then you start to consider, you still have an aspect of you that believes in things, that has passion, like you're saying. And when it comes down to law, whether or not you put Christianity or any other religion in your game, people want something to believe in consistently. And thus, when it comes to what we have here with games and canon, we have something that we hold sacrosanct, and you can't just throw things at people and say, I just take it, it's entertainment, take it. It's like, we'll have our limit for sugar, if you will. We need to have balance. And I think there are things inside us that we need to balance that aren't just bright lights and colors. They have to have that something that adheres to what we hold sacrosanct. Something that, But
something that just resonates with you. I like the idea, and I completely agree. The difference between a fact is an accurate statement using the most available means of verification. So I can say this is a fact because I can prove it. But the truth is how I interpret that fact.
Yes.
The wider context of that fact. A fact is a cold, simple, basic thing. It is a very isolated object. It is just a thing that is correct. Truth is the wider understanding of that fact, is putting it in together. But within that, truths can be two different things. You can have two people say, "Whoa, the truth is," and they're both right, but they're both interpreting the facts their own way. But I absolutely agree that people are not empty. We are creative, intelligent. We are unique individuals, and psychologically, we seek things that resonate with us. We resonate with the cultures that we're raised with, the ideologies that we hold true, and we expose ourselves to new ideas and new cultures to grow our understanding. And yeah, I was raised a Christian. In so much that I went to a Christian school when I was young.
Me too.
My junior school was a Christian school, and even then,
Yeah.
I hold nothing against the church, and if you're religious, that's your relationship with God.
Yeah, it's
I
personal.
can't. Yeah, that's personal, but I hold religion as a personal relationship with God. I understand that you can build a community out of it, but it's no one's faith but your own.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and for me, there are too many inconsistencies and too much history.
Yes, of course. There are things that are inaccurate.
To just to accept it whole hog. I can't. But a fandom, yeah, there's little problems there. There is little issues. It's not as much heritage, or at least dirty, muddy water that comes with it. But it is logically consistent within its own universe. It embodies the ideals and the faiths, the concepts that I wish to embody. And I can easily connect with a wider community around that fandom. So fandoms are kind of like a supplementary means of achieving that kind of religious connection.
That's it, and that's what I think, mate. I mean, it's just a very interesting tangent to go down. It's what you said is absolutely correct in that. When it comes to, in fact, even when it comes to religion and the text, well, by which and what religion is based on, it's very very much based on interpretation. That is to say, you can go to one church and they can say that church down the road is talking a bunch of lies, and and you're like, okay, what? Hey, is it? But then it calls to reason. My personal interpretation of this scripture, the Bible, is that it is not literal. It is more metaphorical, and it's trying to tell you something. It's like a coded language. If you look
book
at
of parables, it's a book of fables. A book of parables, Aesop's fables. They are stories to teach you a lesson.
Exactly.
And the Bible, absolutely fantastic book of great lessons and well told. But don't take it serious. Oh God. The moment people take it seriously, then you're like, yeah, there is some massive inconsistencies here. If it's just read the stories and take the lesson from it.
The teaching.
Argue the lesson. Have discussions about the teachings. That's a great way to communicate and to learn from. Fantastic. And that's why I find most religious people are fine. They're lovely people. They just have a certain belief. They have a certain faith, and they just live their lives. That's fine. It always tends to be the outspoken members of any community. And, historically, we've had some very outspoken religious folks. But even now, popular culture has grown so powerful, and in our analogy, it has replaced the place that faith did, in that it embodies the ideals and the community, and it becomes part of your identity. People really get into a fandom or a story or a faith. It becomes part of who you are.
Yeah.
As part of you. So anyone who challenges that idea or that show or that faith, they're challenging you.
That's exactly it. It comes down to identity, and this is where I think being a cult means to be given a wide variety to watch out. Just as with games, you could, like there are games, or it could be in music, whatever. It could be in hip hop. People say, "Don't ever say a word about Tupac," and I'm like, "I don't like his music." No, you can't. You have to like him.
How dare you? How dare you?
Exactly. And you're like, it could be games, it could be music, it could be religion. That comes up. The cultists are formed when they have this thing where you're not allowed to throw a stone against our great saint or whatnot, and you're like, Um,
You can't
that
challenge the dogma.
yeah,
You can't break canon.
exactly, and because it all comes down to people wanting, like you say, that consistent thing to follow, but it just needs to be healthy. You can also replace the word truth with being honest, and ultimately, if you're being honest when you're judging a game, whether or not it follows canon that this should make sense because this should make sense because according to canon it made sense then, so it should make sense now. But if I'm being honest in how I feel right now, this part of this law, the new component entered into law, doesn't vibe with me. Oh, how dare you? And you're like, but you can't be afraid to give your opinion on something, or you'll never really grow. You'll just be
Yeah.
blind. And no matter what, with again, religion, whenever you follow fandom, even though it's self a fan being a fanatic, we use it lightly, as to say we're fans, but I'm not
Yeah.
fanatical.
I like the way you mentioned that. Yeah, because the term fan, we use it positively, like promotionally. Hey, I'm a fan of this.
Mm.
We know where the word came from.
Yeah.
Fanatic, which has got some pretty strong connotations. And you're like, yeah, a
Yeah.
fan is someone who has taken something,
Mm.
be it faith, practice, a music, a sport, a team, a game, a TV show, some outside element or some outside grouping, and made it part of their identity. It is,
Mm.
they are part of that group, and they have allied themselves and internalized it to the point where if you attack that thing, you're attacking them. They support it wholeheartedly. Doesn't mean, that you can be challenging. Hell, earlier in this video, I, concerned about the game I love. I played Zelda games my whole life. I will continue to do so, but I can throw some shade.
Yeah, this is
I
what it's all
can,
about.
I can do that. But if you come out and say it's garbage, here's my hot take, it's garbage. No, I've
I,
got books here, buddy. I can prove you wrong.
it's all about
Yeah.
balance, mate. Yeah, I think there's nothing wrong with being enthusiastic. Just don't let it blind your judgment. I think that's it. And enthusiastically defensive, but there should be a point where it comes down to, all right, I respect your opinion on this matter. I have my own. As long as you don't say you must like it.
Yeah. It's I miss agreeing to disagree.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
miss that. When I remember people arguing vehemently for or against something, and then going, you know what? I'm going to go a different way. Like,
yeah,
well, fair enough. To each their own.
yeah.
And it's you find it harder and harder to find people. It's hard to find people who do this because, again, it's part of their identity.
Mm.
But hey, I can happily bash a bunch of religious folks, but if someone started burning copies of Zelda, I'd be up there on the battlegrounds, gun in hand, trying to take my Zelda, buddy. We're gonna have a problem.
This is
So
fun.
it's just,
Yeah,
it's finding your community. It's finding who you are, and
yeah.
it's difficult to begrudge someone who vehemently protects something that they hold true
Mm.
when I vehemently protect something that I hold true.
For sure. Dude, this is brilliant discussion. Now, I'm going to put like a little side note saying that we were talking about Zelda. We just took a break to talk about